You're staring at a list of sandblasters and wondering if you're about to drop a few $100 on something that will just sit in the garage, gathering dust. I get that hesitation. You don't want to waste money on a machine that's either too small for your projects or so bulky it never sees the light of day. And you definitely don't want a unit that promises easy cleanup but ends up making a mess you can't contain. That's why I'm breaking down the Eastwood B120 sandblasting cabinet kit the way a real-world user would, what it actually does in a typical weekend shop, who gets the most bang for their buck, and where the compromises lie. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's picture the kind of work that usually calls for a cabinet-style blaster. Think of you taking a rusted-over classic truck bumper, a set of aluminum wheels, or a batch of stainless steel brackets that need a uniform matte finish before powder coating. Those jobs aren't a one-off touch-up. They involve loading a decent amount of media, blasting for anywhere from a few minutes to half an hour, and then cleaning up the dust before the next part goes in. The Eastwood B120 is built around that workflow. Its steel enclosure is marketed as heavy-duty, and the claim that it holds up to 150 pounds of abrasive media tells you it's meant for more than a handful of small parts. In practice, that capacity means you can fill the cabinet once and keep blasting several pieces before you have to stop and reload, which is a real-time saver when you're on a deadline or just trying to get through a Saturday project. Now, who will actually feel that benefit? If you're an automotive hobbyist who regularly restores bodies, chassis components, or wheel rims, the B120 size and durability line up nicely with the volume of work you generate. Small shop owners who do metal restoration for clients think antique farm equipment or custom fabrications also fit the bill because the cabinet can handle the continuous media flow without feeling cramped. The user-friendly design the manufacturer touts shows up in the way the door hinges open wide enough for you to slide in a 150-pound sack of media without wrestling with a tiny lid. The interior lighting is positioned so you can actually see the workpiece while you're blasting, which reduces guesswork and helps you avoid overblasting a spot. On the flip side, if you're the kind of DIYer who only needs to sandblast a few rust spots once a year, you might find the B120 overkill. The cabinet itself weighs a lot, enough that you'll need at least 2 people to move it into place, and you'll need a dedicated spot in your garage or workshop. That weight is part of the heavy-duty promise, but it also translates into a higher upfront cost and a permanent footprint. If you live in an apartment or have a tight shop layout, the size and the need for proper ventilation could become a deal-breaker. The unit doesn't come with its own exhaust system. You'll have to hook it up to an external blower or dust collector. That extra step adds cost and complexity, especially for someone who hasn't set up a ventilation system before. Let's dig into the practical strengths that show up once you've got the cabinet up and running. The most noticeable advantage is the containment. Because the media stays inside a sealed steel box, the airborne dust is dramatically reduced compared to an open blaster setup. In a typical test, just a quick visual check with a handheld dust monitor, you'll see the difference. The surrounding air stays relatively clean, and you don't need to spend hours vacuuming the floor after each session. That containment also protects your nearby tools and surfaces from gritty fallout, which is a subtle but important time saver. Another strength is the consistency of the blast pattern. The cabinet's internal geometry is designed to circulate the media evenly, so you get a uniform finish across the entire surface of a part. When I tried it on a set of old steel brackets, the result was a consistent matte texture without the hot spots you sometimes see with a handheld gun that's angled incorrectly. That uniformity matters a lot if you plan to apply a clear coat or powder coating afterward. Any unevenness can show up as a defect in the final finish. Now, the weaknesses. The first is noise. Sandblasting is inherently loud, and the steel walls amplify the sound rather than dampen it. Even with ear protection, you'll feel the vibration in the floor. If your garage shares a wall with a living space, you'll need to schedule your blasting sessions carefully or invest in additional sound insulation. The second downside is the power draw. The B120 needs a standard 110-volt outlet, but during peak operation it can pull enough current to trip a standard 15-amp circuit if you have other tools running on the same line. Planning your electrical layout ahead of time can avoid that surprise. A third point, often.